What's going on, guys? Trey Lowell here, and in today's video, if you haven't already noticed, we're covering the OnReal native 4K versus the GoPro Hero 5, $155 versus $250, coming up next. So when doing a side-by-side comparison of the OnReal native 4K versus the GoPro Hero 5, there's gonna be 5 categories that I wanna hone in on. And the first one's gonna be footage, and then we're gonna move to stabilization, we're gonna then move to audio, we're gonna then take our way to battery life, and last but not least, price. And we're gonna do kind of a comparison of all those different categories to really sum it down to which of these cameras would better fit your needs and maybe fit into your budget. So let's jump right into footage. So when it came to footage on these two action cameras, the one thing I was super excited to experiment with was the 4K and the 2.7K resolution. Now, small disclaimer, the OnReal does not allow for 24 frames per second, so we were limited to shooting at the 30 frames per second at the 4K and the 2.7. Now, as you guys can see on the left-hand side, we have the OnReal 4K, and on the right, we have the GoPro Hero 5, and from what I can see so far, they're looking pretty similar and they're both holding their own. Now, as we make our way down the settings, we're going to now jump into the 2.7K at 30 frames per second. Now, what we're looking for here is similar to the 4K, just looking to see how the image is holding. Both of these are shot at a wide angle, so what I can see here is the GoPro on the right is a little bit wider, but from what I can see, the OnReal is still a wide option as well. And as we kind of make our way down the line, we're then going to jump into 1080 at 60 frames per second. And my intention here was more so to see just how the different cameras function at the higher frame rates. Now, another shot that I thought was going to be unique and I wanted to experiment with was shooting again at the 2.7, 30 frames per second. And as you guys can see, I'm kind of goofing around drinking some coffee outside. And this is really just to give you guys an understanding of the clarity of each of the cameras and honestly how similar they are side by side. Each of them basically holding their own in the 4K and 2.7K department at 30 frames per second. And the next feature that a lot of us are going to be interested in is time-lapsing. And so over the past few days, I kind of tried my best to put each of the cameras in different environments to see how they performed in time-lapse situations. Now, the videos that you guys are watching, we're currently shooting at time-lapse 4K with a 5-second interval, and what I'm looking for here is to see how they both perform adjusting with the exposure and also how their colors are holding overall throughout the time lapse. And from what I can tell, they seem to be doing a good job. And jumping right into our next two segments, we're going to go ahead and put to the test stabilization and audio, and there's no better way than to hop right back outside. Okay, so this might be the maker or breaker session of the OnReal 4K. Now, currently we're doing a little bit of a walk and talk at 4K 30 frames per second, both set wide angle settings. And what I'm looking for here is I'm looking to see the stabilization. Both of them have in-body stabilization turned on, which gives a smidgen of a crop. I'm gonna be honest with you, at the wide angle settings, the crop really does nothing. And I feel like right now, this is a super wide shot. Now here's what I'm looking for. I'm not expecting for it to be out of this world audio. I'm just hoping that it gives me something that's even usable. So this right now, 4K, 30 frames per second, image stabilization on both cameras. We're gonna do a quick run to see if, you know, side by side, how do these two compare and what is the audio like? So a subtle jog. Whew, it's kind of cold out today, about 30 degrees here in Pennsylvania. And yeah, just doing a little bit of running. Honestly, just want to see if this is even an option that could be used, you know, with the stabilization, because I've got this thing extended out pretty far with the tripod, and very rarely would you ever be running with this camera. Anyways, but we just want to give it a nice stabilization test. And there you have it, guys. So as we jump into battery life, and specifically of these two cameras, you are going to see a common trend when using these cameras. They both have very reliable, stable batteries. An example being that the OnReal shooting at 4K, the battery was able to last up to about 40 minutes on one single charge. Now what I did find is that the GoPro tended to outlast the OnReal, but that's not to say that a camera shooting at 4K for 40 minutes on one battery span is pretty good for a $155 camera. So let's talk price, and that's going to be one thing a lot of you guys are going to be interested in when it comes to these two action cams, and which one would be the one that I would choose or maybe would fit your needs the best. Now if you're coming in on a budget and $250 is going to be a little bit much, I totally understand that the GoPro might not be a viable option for you. Now that being said, coming in at $155, the OnReal is going to bring a nice decent 4K footage. 2.7 is going to be great, image stabilization, the ability of slow motion, and overall packing, everything that you're going to really need, the essentials that the GoPro offers, is definitely going to be in the OnReal at $155. Now if I were going to give my personal opinion and I had the extra money, I'd probably go ahead and invest in the GoPro Hero 5, simply from the functionality to the battery life, audio, the ability that the GoPro itself is waterproof, whereas the OnReal does need to be in its casing, and also with the OnReal's audio functioning well outside of cage, but when in cage really being rather poor. That kind of is my make or breaker for picking the GoPro Hero 5. Now both of these cameras have been very impressive when it comes down to just watching the footage and seeing what both of them pack. Now the OnReal 4K, just coming in at $155, brings a lot of features that are nice and could be a valuable option for somebody like you that might be looking to get into action cameras. I don't always recommend going out and buying the most expensive camera first. Sometimes you need to dabble to figure out if this is something you want to experiment or become an enthusiast in. So when it comes down to these two cameras, they are both a blast, and I am so glad that I've gotten my hands on it, and I hope this comparison gives you a better understanding of the differences between the two cameras. And as always guys, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you like the content that I keep creating on this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Boop. Let's see, did it work? Oh, it worked. Filming, no SD card.